It's a new dawn for Nigeria as the new president is expected to be inaugurated tomorrow. Bola Tinubu will take over Africa's most populous country. Tinubu will have his work cut out as the oil-rich country has not been able to refine enough crude to meet local demands. Let's now bring in Professor Christopher Isike, who is a professor of African politics and international relations in the Department of Political Sciences at the University of Pretoria. Prof, thank you for making time this afternoon. So Bola Tinubu taking over with so much expectation to resolve the problems facing Nigeria. Is he ready? There are those who argue that as a two-time governor of Lagos, who you could argue revitalized Nigeria's commercial hub, is very well aware of the issues he needs to prioritize.
Well, good afternoon, Clement, and thank you for having me. The question of whether he's ready, for me, the question is whether he's the right person to even be president-elect or select, as it's called in many quarters in Nigeria. Yes, he did well as Lagos governor, but that is 23 years ago. He's no longer the same person. So whether he's ready, he did so well for Lagos that he could not build one hospital that is able to treat him when he falls sick. Till yesterday, he still goes to France to get treated. So how well did he do for Lagos then? And who was he doing Lagos for? For himself, for his elite friends, or for the ordinary people of Lagos? That's a question that can be asked. But for whether he is ready, I would take that with a pinch of salt, because of course we know that the problem with Nigeria is beyond one administration or an incoming administration. It's more systemic, and that the problem needs to be solved there. But we've had a ruling party, the APC, Mr. Bola Tinubu's party, that has been in power for 8 years and has been the worst in terms of corruption, in terms of number of deaths from violent conflict from within, in terms of nation building and the economy. And this is not just the executive. Even the legislature has been the worst in terms of oversight on the executive. It was a 100% yes sir Senate said yes sir to the president, who spent a large part of his 8 years in office flying to Europe for medical checkup and treatment, and still did not have the presence of mind to build one hospital to treat him. Yeah. And Mr. Tinubu is going to take over, is largely doing the same thing. So there's not much expectation from lots of people in Nigeria who feel that the election was stolen from them as a people.
Yeah. So should he or should he not end the fuel subsidy? That's one issue that most Nigerians will be closely watching, including the issue of the economy, because it hasn't been performing well. 1 in 3 are unemployed. Inflation is at a record, 22%. 96 million live below the poverty line. Where does he even start? He promised during his campaigning that this will be one of the priorities.
Well, yeah, that's correct. And this is a legacy he's going to inherit from his own party, where he has been a party leader and did absolutely nothing about. So again, is he ready? Is he capable? I don't think he's capable. He's somebody that's almost 80 years old. The same intellectual sharpness, physical astuteness, ability, mental ability that you need to lead a country like Nigeria with all these problems you mentioned. Another. So it's going to be basically like we had in the last 8 years, where you have an absentee president and cronies from all quarters fighting amongst themselves, to try and take charge of the state. So that's essentially what we're going to see. You may see flashes of brilliance here and there, but essentially without any real leadership from any particular individual that has the interests of the people at heart.
And then you've got the kidnapping and the insecurity, because that's another challenge. He has to get to grip on this as quickly as possible. Let me ask you about the popular support. Can he do all of this, right? Achieve all of these commitments he's made without the popular support? Only 37% of voters backed him, making him the Nigerian president elected with the least vote share since 1999. So he will have to perform that tough balancing act when it comes to even choosing his government to build bridges across these divides. What do you think about that tough task of navigating the waters when he doesn't really have the popular support?
Yeah, that's a big problem, and it's reflective of what I've said about the election being stolen and being effectively handed to him by the electoral management body. the INEC that has done everything to frustrate the case of the litigants of that particular election. But Mr. Bola Tinubu has a knack for being able to bring people together across the divide of Nigeria. He did that very well in Lagos State. So if he was the same Bola Tinubu of 1999 to 2007, I would have a lot of more faith in him to be able to do just that. But the man is sickly. The man is almost 80. I don't see him having that grit, that personal superintendence of office. But we hope that he will be able to, in the time that he will be in office, if the judiciary is able to do his job properly, I don't think that he's going to last up to 4 years there as president. He may eventually get to leave because of the tribunal. But if the tribunal, if the judiciary sells out like the INEC and the APC, the institutions who are supposed to protect democracy, conniving to undermine it, if that happens with the judiciary, then of course he will be there for 4 years, and possibly another 4 if he's still able to do it.
Yeah, well, age has never really been a hindrance, I'm hesitant, for some of our African leaders. I mean, if they could have it, they could push it until they're 100 years old. What about corruption?
Well, it's about whether they die in the office. It's not even for how long. They all want to die in office, get state burials, get their families taken care of. That's what it's about for most of them.
Yeah. I wanted to wrap up with the question around corruption, because that's another issue that concerns a lot of Nigerians. When already there are questions around corruption in the electoral process itself, one wonders what happens now when he starts office and over the next, 4 or so years.
Well, yes, corruption is endemic in the country, and it's not helped by the fact that you have a president that is coming in through a largely corrupt process, that should change the yearnings and aspiration of people. People believe that the INEC actually handed Mr. Tinubu a victory. Till today, as we speak, the INEC has not been able to produce all the results upon which they determined that he won the elections. They are supposed to do this in court, whether they're doing a delay tactics deliberately to ensure that he was inaugurated, and then hope that things will fizzle out. Maybe that's their hope. I don't know if that will work out. But yes, so it's difficult for someone who's tainted, who has not come to equity with clean hands, to be able to solve corruption, which he directly benefited from. So that's a problem. But the larger solution to Nigeria's corruption is also systemic. Is the fact that, like most states in Africa, the people of Nigeria have not determined for themselves the state called Nigeria, have not bought into it, and so the state lacks a lot of legitimacy, and you see people becoming their own government. In Nigeria, people produce their own water, their own electricity, and even make their own roads. So if the state is so absent in people's lives, it becomes difficult for you to be patriotic and loyal to that state. When people get into positions, they take as much as they can from the state that is alien to them. So we need to be able to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves who are we, what we want to achieve as a people, articulate a people-driven constitution, so that we'll have a people state that everyone will have a stake in trying to fight against those who will then try to undermine that people state.
Okay. Well, Professor Christopher Isike, thank you